Welcome back. In this video series, we've covered a lot so far. We started by building out an Azure data warehouse in Fabric. Yesterday, we also went through and tied that data agents into Copilot Studio. I'm here today with my friend Mitchell Pearson. I'm Brian Knight, and what are we going to do today, Mitchell?
So today, we're going to go back and look at those agents that we've built the last 2 days. And we're going to actually tune them a little bit because sometimes, as we've noticed, we might not get the responses that we expect and they might not be consistent. And so there are some things that we can do both within data agents and within Copilot Studio agents to make that experience more consistent.
So when you say the word tuning, you're not really referring to the classic data warehouse tuning here. You're more AI tuning.
Right.
Like how can I get the prompt to do what I want to do?
Exactly.
Now, where are we going to do that? Because we can do it in 2 locations. Where are you going to start showing us?
So yeah, within the Fabric Data Agent, which by the way, I went in there today and I had been looking at it yesterday, went in there today, 2 hours ago, getting ready for the session, and the UI changed a little bit. So just keep in mind, this is preview. We mentioned that on Monday. But inside of the Fabric Data Agent, there's 2 different things we can do. With any data source that we add into our agent, you have what are called data source instructions. And then you also have what are called agent instructions. And so we're going to take a look at both of those today.
Okay. What are the difference between the 2? As we kind of go
so the agent instructions is really telling the agent what data sources to use based on certain questions, return the top 5, return these types of visuals, those types of things. So we're trying to tell it the tone to use, returning any kind of summaries and things like that. When we get into data source instructions, there we might be doing synonyms. So if somebody asks total sales, it actually means this. If somebody asks for this, then return this response.
So if the agent's getting confused by what a CHG is, they would say, oh, that's a charge card, or that's a X, Y, and Z. So not only the columns and but also the data in those columns you can do. All right, cool.
Exactly correct.
Well, let's get started then.
Let's get started. So if you remember on Monday, one of the questions we were asking was actually around weather data. And when we were asking data about weather, we were not getting the response that we expected. So there's a couple of different things that we can do to take care of that. So I'm going to try that again. We're going to see what kind of response we get right here inside of the browser. And so go ahead.
Oh, one more thing also. If you are wondering how we got to what Mitchell's showing right now, the description of those last 2 videos are in the description of this video. You'll find part 1 and part 2 to help you build with the nerds also.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So we're going to come down here to the bottom, and I'm just going to ask, what are total sales? By the way, total sales is one of those things we need to clarify too, because I don't know if that's total fair amount or total amount. So we're going to find out about that and see what happens. But what are total sales by, and then I'm going to do temperature. Now when we did this one on Monday, it did not return the expected response. It actually said it could not access the weather data inside of our report. All right, this is actually not that bad. Don't love the response, but what it is giving us here is it's total sales by temperature. It's showing every individual temperature Fahrenheit data point and then the total sales, which obviously is not necessarily what we want to see here, but it's pretty good. Now, if you remember from Monday, the other thing we could do is we could click on step completed and actually take a look at what the SQL query is doing.
So it'd be really good in this case. I would imagine if I was an analyst, I want to go through and bucketize those temperature ranges, right?
Absolutely.
You got to build ranges of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get a better response here. And so a couple of things. One, this looks really good, but it is grouping by just the straight up average Fahrenheit. Not the best, but it did figure out. Ooh, actually, no. This is not good. Look at this. It did not properly join to the weather table. It needed to join to the weather table based on both geography and date,
so
based on the zip code.
Granularity's off then.
The granularity is off. And this is actually the first time, Brian, that I've seen it do this specifically.
That's the nature of non-deterministic, right?
It is. So let's jump in real quick, and we're going to actually take a look at a couple of things that we can do here. The first thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to try to enforce the join to happen on the right columns, and then we're also going to try to enforce it to actually kind of bucketize, if that's a word, bucketize. Tell me how to pronounce that later after the call. We're going to try to bucketize the results so that we don't get this response, because users aren't going to expect that. So the first thing that we'll do is I'm going to come right over here, and we now have this new setup tab as of this morning. And I'm going to click setup. And under setup, we have a couple of things. We have our agent instructions, which we will come back to very soon. And we also have our data source instructions and example queries. So we will start with data source instructions. Now, what I want to do under data source instructions, and I went ahead and wrote all of these out, is I want to pull over this right here. So I'm going to tell it first and foremost, and I could type this out because it really wasn't that much of a challenge. I didn't have any problems with it, but I'm going to tell it, look, if a user asks about temperature or rain, join to the weather table on pickup geography ID and date ID. So that's going to ensure, Brian, that I get the level of granularity that I'm really looking for here. So I'll start with that, and then we'll come back to the other example. Now, one thing I do want to point out is when you're working with this, sometimes there's a delay. Sometimes I'll come over here and clear the chat. I'll refresh the browser to kind of get those results. So if you don't immediately get the results that you expect the first time that you do this, feel free to just wait a second, refresh everything, and see what happens. So I'm going to come down here and try it. If it doesn't work the first time, then we'll go ahead and clear everything out. So again, what are the total sales by temperature?
This is more art than science, right? It's a lot of like trial and error and trying to get it to force it down a certain path. Yeah.
It is. This is still a technology that is changing, and it's the same results. So we'll have to see if the join gives me what I want. But this is, and look at that. You can almost tell that it's pulling from cache. It was way faster, and it doesn't even tell us the steps were completed. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out, right? I'm going to clear the chat, and then I'm going to ask that question again. So what are total sales by temperature? But no, Brian, I go back to what you said. This is a new, in our world, this is a new technology. It's changing very, very rapidly. And so you do have to really think about the questions that you're asking, how you are inputting the results in the instructions, and really just test that out and validate the results.
Right. And then not only that, but redo it and try it over and over again. That's where there is a Copilot Studio kit where it will run these tests on a regular basis and let you know that the results vary now all of a sudden.
Yep.
So yeah. Oh, that's
all right. So let's look at this. So the responses are still by the individual Fahrenheits. We don't love that, but we are going to fix it. But we have a couple of problems. One, this worked exactly like I wanted it to. So that's awesome. We put an AI instruction in there that said when you're asked about weather data, whether temperature or rain, join on the pickup geography ID and the date ID. So that's working perfectly. That was not working a minute ago, so I love when it's doing exactly what I want it to do, which is exactly what happened here. The other thing is, notice that we're actually getting the total amount. Now, I purposefully put a prompt in there that said total sales. Sometimes it gives me the total fair amount. Sometimes it gives me the total amount. That is extremely confusing. So we want to make sure that the AI understands exactly what we're trying to do here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to fix two things. I'm going to tell it that whenever somebody asks about total sales, that equals total fair amount. That's what we want specifically. And then the other thing I want to do is we don't want to see this by individual Fahrenheits, right? So let's go back into those data instructions, and it's actually still open right here. And so the first thing I'll do, and I'm going to put this down a little bit further, I'll put a comment in here, and we'll call this something like synonyms, which I'm sure I can't spell. So we'll go with that. Don't judge me. And then I'm going to tell it right here, total sales equals total fair amount. Now, I'm not worried about it matching exactly the way it is in the database, because as long as it's syntactically similar, the AI is really smart and it's going to figure that out. We've seen that time and time again. So that's one thing that I want to add in here, and we'll add to that later. The other thing is I want to tell it that, I'll actually just steal it from here because we're going to do two things with this. So let me flip back. I'm going to tell it right here that if we're asked about temperature, so in any way, so that's going to be Fahrenheit, I think you'll cover Celsius later. If I'm asked about temperature, give a response based on the average daily temperature broken into buckets. So I want to bucketize it, and I'm just going to let AI decide what those buckets are. All right, so I'm going to click away. I am going to this time clear my chat because we saw last time it absolutely used a cache. And then I'm going to ask this question again. And let's make sure we use the same question here. And then Brian, while I'm doing this, if we have any questions so far.
So far, no questions, but we are answering questions live right now.
Oh, yeah.
So if you do have any questions, feel free to put in the chat window and we'll plug away.
All right, so what are total sales by temperature? We refreshed it. Keep in mind, if we get the exact same results as before, there's a chance that we need to give it a little bit more time, but look at that, Brian.
Oh, I like that.
Oh yeah, this is really, really cool, right? So if we come over here and we take a look at this response, we immediately see that it is now putting this into buckets. And we're able to see the amount of sales. Now, one question is, what does sales represent? We're going to figure that out. Is this total amount, or did it fix it to total fair amount? And then two, let's take a look at these buckets and how that was done. So if I click on one step completed, and then I come down here and I expand what that step did, we can see exactly what the SQL query is doing right here. All right, it is using fair amount. Yeah. What do you think about that? It was just total sales or total amount a minute ago. So that worked. That's awesome. And then it is deciding on its own what represents those different buckets. But it is working.
So we could force it to use certain buckets, imagine, with more instructions you wanted to.
We could. That's exactly what I'm going to do next, right?
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind here, Mitchell.
You walked me right into it. It's almost like we planned it. All right. So let me go grab this next one right here, right, where we're going to kind of give it an idea. And I could just type this out again, but this is a lot quicker here for this example. And I'm going to go in here and replace the one that we have because it's the exact same one. The only difference this time is I'm telling it that the bucket should be this, right? So I'm being very specific. If it's below 32, it's freezing. If it's less than 53, it's cold. If it's less than 72, it's mild, warm, and then hot, right? So we're being very explicit with our results. I always click away, by the way, Brian. It seems to be that's the saving element, is you click away from it. Sometimes I'll close it just to be safe, but I think we're going to be able to get the result we want. And this is going to be what are total sales by temperature.
Now, is that by Florida standards of cold or by Mitchell standard of cold?
See, I put it to 90 because we're in Florida.
Yeah, okay.
So you saw the AI was 80. Well, below 90 is like warm in Florida because we're just used to it being hot, right?
Yeah.
But the humidity index matters a lot. All right, so what are total sales by temperature? And I think we delayed long enough that the result should be updated.
There you go.
So we'll see. All right. Now, it doesn't tell us right here the exact criteria used, but we can go down here and see, is it matching what we expect it to match? And you can see, and I used some weird ones like 53, 72 so that it would stand out. So it is perfect. It's doing exactly what we're telling it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to point out here, Brian, is when we get into this type of work, there's a lot of different places we can do work, right? We can add an AI instruction here, and in that AI instruction, we can tell it, I want to do this thing. But here's a problem with this. We are connecting to a data warehouse that has that data in it. Other users might connect to that data warehouse and write SQL queries, write reports from it, write Power BI reports from it. And we're going to get results that are inconsistent if every user gets to decide their own version, like you said earlier, of what is hot and what is cold. So then somebody comes in and says, oh, well, we have 10 million trips when it's hot. And somebody else says, no, we have 12 million because they decided what they thought was hot. And obviously in New York, 90 degrees is hot, hot. So we kind of will figure that out. So what we should have done is we should actually probably take this back to the database itself and build a new column in the database so that it has that information in there. So anytime anybody connects to that database, it's in one place.
Single version of the truth.
Single version of the truth, yeah. So this just shows that cool capability, but we want to make sure that we emphasize there is a right way to do this. All right. So with that being done, the next thing I actually want to talk about is agent instructions. And then we're not done with this. We're going to come back, but I want to talk about agent instructions as well. So agent instructions can be found in really two places here. You got it right at the very top, but it also shows up underneath this setup tab as well, which again, this setup tab is brand new. So under agent instructions, this is where, and it kind of gives you some prompts here, right? This is where you can tell the data agent rules for how to approach each question, which data sources to use, any terminology or acronyms consistent across all data sources, not just one, because remember, we can connect to many. And then also things like tone, style, and formatting for finished responses. So one thing I like is I like to come in here and I like to do something like provide a concise summary for every response. Now again, there might be a delay, but what this will do, Brian, is this is going to give us, for every response at the top, it's going to give us an actual summary of what it's returning. And a lot of times that's a nice little prompt that'll let you know if it's hitting the total amount or hitting the fair amount.
Gotcha.
So we'll click away on that. And then I'm actually going to try to do the same one that we did a minute ago. But again, I'm going to clear the chat. and then we'll run that one more time here. Now, again, agent instructions do sometimes have a delay. So if it doesn't work, we'll just leave it and we'll see it start showing up as we work through our other examples here. And then again, I'll ask if there's any questions from the audience.
No, so far, pretty clean. They're all mesmerized.
Yes. All right. Ooh, look at that. We got our summary. So we immediately get summary right here. The summary just tells us, hey, this is total sales by temperature, and this is as follows. Now, the thing about this, Brian, one thing I want to point out is that we could make that concise summary more specific, like include the measures that were used, include the columns that you used as part of this, so that we can actually kind of prompt the user and the user understands if it's what they expected or not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that drives a little bit more.
So this is really revolutionizing, I think, the data analyst position, right? Because you're able to kind of integrate, become more of a conductor versus having to do all the hardcore queries. Like writing that query wouldn't be terrible, but it's still going to take you a little while to build out. So you just kind of took all that, and you lowered the learning curve, right? You've made it where anybody can now be a data analyst.
I mean, we saw yesterday, we can do this on Teams. So we can pull this data agent on our phone and instantly, within 6 seconds, answer that type of question.
From millions of rows.
From millions of rows. Yeah, this is an incredible, incredible technology.
And that's on the lowest tier of Fabric. So if we had billions of rows, we cranked it up a little bit, the results would be just as fast.
Yeah. Now, one thing I didn't do here, because I wasn't going to my Word document, is I do want to tell it always. It's very important when we're doing AI instructions that we are very explicit and we tell the AI exactly what to do. So be very, very specific there. So I'm going to tell it always provide. The other thing I want to tell it is always return a table instead of bullet points. All right? Always return a table instead of bullet points. I don't want to return bullet points. That's what the AI always returns over here, generally speaking. So you do have the ability to tell the agent instructions. You have the ability to come in here and say, I want this type of visual or I want this type of table. We can come in and we can do that here. So I'm going to go ahead and give it, I'm trying just a little bit of a delay tactic here. So this is usually when Brian starts talking about, his favorite musician, Taylor Swift.
Actually, our system is not actually answering, not pulling up questions right now for some reason. So that's why we haven't seen questions, is because our system is not doing it. So I've got a few questions here for you.
All right.
All right, so let's see here. What are the pros and cons of using a Fabric data warehouse as your data source versus a semantic model and using DAX? This is from Justin.
Okay, so pros and cons there. The semantic model is, that's a tough one, right? Because there's obviously, it's going to change a lot as the AI stuff does change here. The benefit with a semantic model is that the semantic model is going to be accessible from like just basic standalone Copilot, which is that experience we're not talking about here, but over here on the left-hand side of my navigation bar, we've enabled it within our organization. So we can hit those semantic models, and there's some other benefits to semantic models like direct lake and things like that. And so with a semantic model, it's going to be accessible to certain, like Copilot standalone. But the data warehouse is not available to the standalone Copilot experience. And so it works great for Fabric data agents, but if I'm connecting to Copilot standalone and I'm asking those questions, it's not going to see the data warehouse, not today. So that's kind of one thing, one difference there. Obviously, the semantic model takes a little bit longer to put together because you first have the data warehouse and then you're building that semantic model on top of it. So there's a little bit more development time involved in that. A lot of the stuff that we're doing right now around instructions and example queries, also not available. Data source instructions and example queries are not available for your semantic models because you do those inside of the semantic model. So whereas here, I'm coming in here more of like an expert or a professional around agents, and I'm adding stuff here. If it was the semantic model, the roles kind of change. That data engineer who built the model needs to build all those instructions.
Right.
So,
little apples and oranges then.
Yeah.
So this is a question from Tim then. If we're showing the SQL code here, kind of diagnosing, if we did go to a semantic model, would it show the DAX or the M code or the semantic code that's being used?
In the data agent,
in our agent we're using right now, it's showing SQL. Would it vary based on the model we're pointing to?
So I'm about 98% sure it does. And the only reason I say that is because I'm getting a little bit confused with standalone Copilot. I know standalone Copilot 100% does. You can actually view the advanced query that it writes. You can go run it. You can debug it. You can run it in Index Query View. So I'm pretty sure it does the exact same thing here. I just haven't connected to a semantic model here in a little bit.
Gotcha, no worries. And now you built a class on this recently also. It should be up in the next few days. What does that class have in it?
Yeah, so it's a pretty quick class, but it's only on data agents. It's about 2 hours, and it goes into all the things we're talking about here, but it just goes a little bit more in depth. And on our on-demand learning, we're going to keep building and adding new features.
Yeah, we're adding about 30 new AI classes right now. All right, cool. I'll keep on going. I'm watching the chat here from our producer's cell phone here.
All right, so what are total sales by temperature? Let's run that again. And this time what we're looking for, Brian, is I'm trying to see if I actually get a table instead of bullet points. So we should be by fair amount, we should be joining on the pickup, and we got a table. Look at that. We have a summary, we got a table, we got the results that we expect. So again, we're leveraging those AI instructions to be very concise with what we want to return, and we're getting that summary as well. Now, I'm going to show you another agent instruction that's pretty cool. I could tell it, what are the total sales by zip code? And if I do total sales by zip code, we know it's going to convert that over to the total fair amount. But we're going to get a lot of responses here because we have a lot of zip codes in our data. And so when I see something like this, it makes me think a little bit, do I really want to return 100 data points or 1,000 data points to the end user? I probably don't. So what I can do in this situation here is I can say, you know what, AI agent, when a user asks a question, only return the top 5 results, unless the user asks for a different response. And so I'm going to try that one real quick right here, Brian. And you'll notice I've kind of abandoned my Word document and just typing this out live. But it really is that easy. So if a user, or when answering a user response, when responding, always return the top 5 results unless the user request a specific number.
Nice.
So let's see what happens there. And how you write these do matter, so I'm sure I might have to go back and look at my actual notes if this doesn't do exactly what I want it to do.
One word can be a big difference also.
It can be, and we've noticed that. But we've also noticed that it's started to get a lot better here. So let me go back in here again. I'm going to clear my chat, as we've already talked about before. There we go. And then we'll run it again. And I'm hoping that by the zip code, we actually only get the top 5 results. Oh, no data found. Now that's an odd one there. There are no available records of total sales by zip code in the most recent data. Let's see what it does here. Sometimes it actually will do a weird join condition, and this might be a really good part for the next part. Let's see. Enter join geography on pickup. That is good. That is good. So my guess is that they might have failed, and we might have to test that out. Yeah, so that did not give me the results that I expected, but I will try it one more time. So let's try that one more time here. What is the total fair amount by zip code? Let's try it one more time. Oh, there we go. So very, very odd. So here are the top 5 zip codes by fair amount. The only thing I changed was fair amount instead of total sales to try to help it a little bit. And then we do get a summary at the bottom here as well. Now the real test, Brian, you've been a little distracted trying to get those questions back up so we could answer people. But the real test is, can we return 10? Because we told it return 5 unless the user requests more. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to say, all right, what is the total fair amount for the top 10 zip codes?
Oh, it's madness now.
Oh, it's getting crazy. What is the total fair amount for the top 10 zip codes? And we're going to give that a moment. And we're going to see if the user is able to override the agent instructions per our request. Look at that.
Awesome.
Look at that. Here are the top 10. So we have, and this is really awesome, right? We have an agent instruction that tells it to return the top 5 if the user doesn't request. So they're not going to get overwhelmed with a bunch of data points. But if the user requests something different, it will respect the request from the user, which is really, really awesome here. All right, so let me look over at my notes here because I know that there's a couple more data instructions that I do want to add. And then I think I'll do one more real quick, Brian, but let me look at my notes just to make sure. I've done that one. I'm just going to do borough and county. And then I'll do the SQL query to guarantee a response, and then I'll turn that back over to you.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, we got this weather data, just a question from Clinton there. We got this weather data from the Bolton data warehouse, that's the sample data warehouse. And then also, Clinton's asking a question, is there any way I can build these instructions based on the join? That's where likely feeding our DML query, our DML, our data warehouse design, to an AI to say build AI prompts based on this would probably be a great way of doing that. That's what I had to do in the past, at least, is script out the data warehouse, feed that script into AI, and then say build AI instructions based on that. So that was a great question from Clinton there also.
All right. So what I'm going to do is just add a quick little synonym here, Brian, on borough and county. And last time, if you remember, we actually tried borough, and it actually did city. It returned city, so it was incorrect. Well, I didn't spell borough correct, that's right. I told you I wasn't going to. I intentionally spelled it incorrectly. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear the chat here, click away, and then I'm going to ask it, what is my total fair amount? What is total fair amount by borough? And I'm going to spell it the right way this time. And what we expect it to do is we know that in New York City, the borough is
Brooklyn.
It's going to be tightly, it's correlated with the county.
Right.
So what I expect to see is the counties, and I can look at the steps, love this validation feature, and I can see right now, unlike last time when we did this live, it is using the county.
Awesome.
All right. So the last thing, Brian, I would want to show you here is I showed in the AI instructions, right, that anytime somebody asks about temperature or rain, join to the weather table on the pickup geography ID and date ID. And that's great. That worked really well. We've seen that work every time, and originally on Monday this didn't work. But normally where I would probably want to put something like that is actually in this feature over here called example queries. And so example queries are there in case you have a really complicated SQL logic that you need to do that you know the AI is going to struggle with.
So you want to force it to use something.
You want to force it to use that. And so this is a really powerful capability that exists in here to help us out. Now, in this situation, it's not going to be, we don't have anything that's too complicated for the AI, but we can copy out this very simple join condition here. And then what I would do is I'd come over here and say, hey, I want to add an example. And I'll put a question in here and I say, you know, what is the total fair amount by temperature or rain? And what will happen is any question that a user asks that is syntactically similar to that, it'll use the query that I provide below. And I'll give that a moment.
This is kind of one of the futures of what a database developer might do. It's kind of seeding it to where anybody can ask these questions. So all that mundane work then kind of goes away, and you become more, you're kind of like tilling the field, getting it ready for people to ask whatever questions they want to ask and put whatever crops they want to on that.
100%, 100%. And it kind of goes back to the question earlier with the semantic. So the benefit of a semantic model in a lot of ways is that semantic model has all those pre-built relationships.
Right.
It has all those active relationships in it, and a lot of the DAX stuff that you've done
just applies.
The data agent's going to pull from that. Whereas with a data warehouse, you can get it off the ground a lot faster. You can build that proof of concept a lot faster, but then you're going to have to do this kind of stuff.
It doesn't say you can put a semantic model on top of the warehouse also.
Well, that's generally the next step. Exactly correct. And then one thing to point out is the cool thing about our agent under data is a lot of times you will probably connect to a semantic model and maybe that raw data that wasn't in the semantic model back in the lakehouse or back in the data warehouse. So you actually, most of the time, it's going to be a multi-use scenario there. All right, so we got that in here. We're actually not going to even run this because we already know it's working based off of our agent instructions, but I just wanted to show this real quick. This is where you go if you've got complicated SQL, complicated requirements that the AI is struggling with, or you don't feel like it's going to consistently return those results. You put it in here, and then you will see it using that exact query over here in the applied steps.
Sweet.
And this, yep.
Is it my turn?
I am tired.
I want to roll my sleeves up. All right, you can do the questions now for a while.
All right.
Ignore them for a while, like I was ignoring them by accident.
Perfect.
So go ahead and just refresh your chat window there.
All right.
And so we talked about the data analyst for quite a bit here, and kind of the role of the data analyst becoming more of a conductor, and AI being like a thought partner,
right,
versus versus you have to drive everything. You're more driving the train and letting the hard work being done by AI. That's what we're going to do next in Copilot Studio. We're going to update our agent, what's happened so far, if you want to publish that. So if you want to get what Mitch just did into Copilot Studio, he needs to publish his side so I can then see it also. Now that he does that, he's going to give me raw data back, and I can then structure it and format it however I want on my side. So this is targeting the executive room, or this is targeting the interns, or the customers. We can speak with that customer voice, even though he's giving us raw data in a concise way. I can say, AI, interpret it based on these other things that you might know. So to start with here, on my screen, you're going to see Copilot Studio. This is exactly where we left it yesterday. We're going to tweak these instructions a little bit. I'm also going to go over to knowledge, and I'm going to add some extra knowledge. Now, this knowledge, and you don't have to actually do this yourself, just kind of, I'll put this in the chat, in the description after this webinar is done, but this is one we were working on till very late last night. Oh, Professor, I saw that one also, yeah. Don't build his head up any more than he already is. Guys, this is not good. He can't walk out of the room now because of that. Thank you. All right, okay, there we go. So I'm going to add some new knowledge source right now. And I was looking at the wrong camera this entire time. That shows what I'm doing wrong. All right, so I have two different pieces of knowledge sources. This was actually built with AI in my case. And it went out and queried a whole bunch of data sources. And it built an Excel spreadsheet here of all, that's weather, I don't want that. No, you already have weather. Let me go ahead and delete that one. Let me try that again. All right, here we go. So what I have here is a Word doc of all the major events. So I went ahead and built this from about 20 different data sources. I had AI build it. And it has every event like marathons, the Jets games, the Giants games, if you can call it those, in the Jets case. All those kind of things are inside of here, including any kind of concerts and parades and all sorts of goodies here. So I'm going to go ahead and describe this because whatever's in the description here will give it a clue on should I go to this or not go to this. So I'll just put list of events in 2013, excuse me, in New York City. Okay, and of course, this name right here is just to make it where it's a little easier for us to find. I'll hit add this knowledge now, and we can keep on adding other knowledge sources also, whether it be from SharePoint, whether it be from Word docs or PDFs, or an Excel spreadsheet, or even data sources like Dataverse if you wanted to. Eventually, this knowledge right here will also contain things like Fabric, but it's not there yet. All right, so once we have that now in place, this will take a few minutes to go ahead and upload. Goodness, it's not that large of a file. Do I have it open already? Is that the problem? Yeah, it is the problem. So this is what the data source looks like, by the way. It just shows us a list of all the events and then how many attendees were at that event. Let me close that so it'll actually wake up and add that data source. And while it's processing this, when it's processing, it's basically indexing the file. If we put it more on like a OneDrive, it can like regularly reprocess this. But in our case, this is going to be when it was uploaded and it's static. If I want to modify this file, I got to basically delete it, re-upload it again. Let's go to overview real quick and tweak our results just a tad bit here. So if I went to overview and I go to edit here. Now, by the way, in case you're wondering how in the heck do I get here, this was an event we did yesterday. You can go over to agents to find this agent and click on the trip analysis one here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little closer here because my eyes are terrible right now. And we can see that we wanted things in a bullet form and leave the category unbolded. Let me go ahead and kind of tweak. I, like Mitchell, have gone through and put a lot of the stuff out on OneNote, or not OneNote, on a notepad, which I have simply closed, looks like. There it is. All right, so I've tweaked my instructions just a tad bit here. And let me zoom in so I can show the differences here. All right, all I've done now, this is the first column is exactly the same. I'm also asking for the data to now be returned as a table with the first column, category column, being bolded. I said when Mitch sends me dates, I want them in day name, comma, month, day, year. And also, just for a little spice here, because this is going to our intern group, I want to speak like a disgruntled teenager when it responds to me also with lots of emojis, because this is very professional. And I want it to feel very professional in my case also. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. So what's going to happen now is Mitch is going to send me through the data agents the raw data coming out, And then Copilot Studio is then going to interpret that in some way and give me out a new clean version of that. So let's see what it looks like if I go and ask, show me the top trips, top dates for trips in 2013. Now let's imagine it's 2014 right now, and I'm an analyst, and I want I'm just gonna ask for top dates. Let's see if it gives me top 5. I'm gonna see, I didn't ask for top 10 or any of those kind of things, so we'll see what it does.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so here it goes.
So we want to see if it's using our agent instructions from just a few moments
Yes, and a mistake I made is I did not actually trace this. We can actually watch it all happen. So I should have, I see it in progress here. It's still training that model. Let me confirm it's actually done now. All right, I thought the stall technique was enough, but obviously I am wrong. There it goes, ready finally. All right, let me try that again. I'll hit refresh here, trace it on. I'll wait for it to come back. Show me the top trips by date. All right, we should see now, is hopefully, there it goes, it's using Fabric. That's the query being passed in. There we go, show the top trips by date. Raw data can come up down here, and then the interpreted data will be right next to it on my side here. So here's the raw data. Oh, look at that. We have a table now with columns. We see the date's been long form here. Let me zoom in a little closer so those can see. And not seeing, got a little bit of emojis here. So these are the peak travel days. Enjoy. Not quite disgruntled enough yet, but we'll get there.
That emoji is disgruntled, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, that's true. That's true. He looks a little mad there.
And you did get 5 trip dates, so it is pulling from our agent instructions.
Which is pretty awesome. So now though, Mitch, I want to find out, hey, are there any events going on those dates? So I'm putting my data analyst hat on. I want to try to figure out why are these, before I go ahead and double my number of taxis that are on the streets that day, what is going on those days? So let's go ahead and say, well, show me what events were happening in New York City on these dates within, how about we say within 2 days, all right, of those dates.
And then Brian, while that's responding, we did get a question here. Where can the attendees today and in the future get a copy maybe of the file that you are using?
I'll post that in about an hour.
All right.
Good question.
There we go. So they'll be able to download it.
So in the description of this video, so come back in about an hour, you'll see in the description this exact piece here. And there we go. So now we're getting some dates here. We got the, oh wow, this is interesting. So we can see the symphony was playing on certain days. We see, this is interesting. So it looks like the way it's going here, it did pick a few days from there. We see some Yankees games on April 1st. Where's our November date? There's our November date. And we have various New York locations. This looks like the wrong data source in our case.
I think
it most certainly was. And I'm wondering if maybe the data was not fully processed yet. So let me try that one more time here. All right, so show me the top trips, dates. All right, dates. I'll zoom in so I can see myself here. Dates with trip counts. All right, good enough. So what I'm wondering there is, what was that knowledge source? Because I didn't even see it search the knowledge source. So I'm thinking that might be part of the problem there. So I will put that out there as well. And then the next question, we should see it populate that. There we go. All right. What events were happening within 2 days of these dates above? I'll ask a slightly different way. Returned. These are some poppin'. These dates were popping with taxi trips. I love that. Disgruntled teenagers. Some people do pirates. I think disgruntled teenagers way more funny, way funnier. All right, we should see it. See, it looks like it's going to a different knowledge source that I don't like. So there are ways we can force it to go down a different knowledge source here, and because it is choosing. There we go. So there we go. Okay. Oh, this looks right. All right. So it did pick the right one. All right. So we're seeing. All right. So I'm seeing we have the Nine Inch Nails concert. I know that's correct. I've seen the data. 15,000 people there on that date. We have the Giants game with 80,000 people. So these do correlate within a few days of that. There were some dates down here for. Oh, sorry, nothing pops up to the data. So this is where we have to kind of tweak things a little more. Now, where can we go to tweak it even more? There's a few things we have wrong right now that we may want to bubble up here. in our knowledge source, one of the things we can do to really highlight this knowledge base right here is really important. We can select it and say, yep, that's an official data source.
Oh,
so
wow.
now when it uses it, it's going to update the instructions and put little stars going across from official data sources.
Okay.
So it's going to give it higher elevated priority over the Wikipedia and all that. We can also, by the way, under topics, there were some things there that I noticed yesterday that our conversation from yesterday was still hanging out there. So if we asked a question 5 days from now, Copilot Studio might say, I'm still responding about the trips, right? And kind of still have the context memorized. So what you may want to do if you're using something like Teams as a data source, it as of right now, there's recording, which is today, and whatever day we're in October of 2025, it might not be intelligent enough to disconnect from that conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a quick topic that says, hey, you're not using this for 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect, so next time we talk, we're starting from scratch. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to add a new topic here from blank. Now this is actually fairly easy here. These topics are going to control the way agent makes the decisions it makes. So for example, we can force it to use some of those data sources like that trip data for some questions. But you see this right here? Let me kind of zoom in a little closer here. This little change trigger, right now the agent's going to choose when to use this. I don't want that. I want it to go ahead when the conversation's getting dead. I wish life worked that way, where you can say, hey, nobody's talking to me for a while. I'm going to go ahead and leave this party. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm looking for, and my eyes are really terrible. Looks like, oh, user has been inactive for a while. And what does a while mean? It means 30 minutes, but I can adjust that to whatever, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever I want. All right, so I'll make it 15. And then what happens next? I'll hit the little plus button right here. I'm going to send them a message saying I'm starting from scratch. I'll send them a message here, and I'll say, hey there, I'm disconnecting due to inactivity, and you are boring. Not enough Swifty talk. I know half of Mitch's conversations are about Taylor Swift. See the previous video to get more information about that. All right, so we have that. I'll hit the plus button, and then under topic management, we'll say go ahead and end the conversation. So this is going to force Copilot Studio just to hang up on you at this point, and I'll just call this in convo, in conversation, whatever, and hit save. Okay. So that's going to keep our conversation kind of clean now in this case. We can also go through though, and these topics are really useful for other ways also. So if we want to shape the way the conversation's looking, there is let me just kind of show this briefly, Mitch. We're not going to finish this topic here. I just want to kind of show how it works. So I'll say, hey, use this topic for questions about events. All right.
So that's telling it to use the data source, or it's telling it
to use this topic.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, this is not necessarily. I just want to kind of give you an example of how to use these. I wouldn't use this one for this example. We would keep on structuring the prompts to get it to use the instructions. But let's just kind of see what it looks like here. So I'll then go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and do under advanced here, generative answer. Now these are pretty cool. These generative answers can take the question coming in and do whatever AI prompt that you wish, just like you were in middle of ChatGPT. So I'm going to go ahead and select the input here. The input is going to be the question that was passed in. So for that, you can see under system, there's something called activity.text. That is what message is being passed into the chat window. Then I go to edit data sources here and say, you know what? Oh, I already see the problem. Only use a certain data source of the New York City major events. All right. I don't want to use web searches. And I can also structure the prompt right here to say, hey, query it this way, return it as a pirate now, or return it as bullets instead of tables. So you can kind of override the instructions as a whole that are out there. So when I save this, I'll just call this trip events, something like that. It's now going to go and hop over here for questions about trips, about events in this case. So if I say something like, let me restart my conversation. And again, this may not be, though, I would probably structure this into the instructions, the overall instructions, versus the topic for this. But just for giggles here, show me the top day by trip count. There we go. I should say date, because day means something different sometimes. We'll see how it actually recognizes that now. Is it going to show me Monday or show me the date? What do you think? All right, here we go. I should have traced this. There we go. So it is showing me November 1st. I can say, all right, what was happening in New York City within 2 days of that date?
And you have trace turned on, or?
There we go. And I said that date. So because I'm doing activity.text, it is not going to be the correct answer because it doesn't know the context likely behind that. So we'll see if it actually gives me the right answer. Oh, it did get the right answer this time. This is what I was expecting the first time. That's how I kind of knew it was using the wrong data source largely. But it found there were, you had a big Halloween festival going on then. You also had a New York Marathon in all 5 boroughs, and you had a Jets game. So all those were bringing millions of people into New York City likely, leading to our top day in 2013. So, because people were kind of getting positioned for all those races and all that. So really, again, the way I would have probably handled this is likely going to be in the overview tab instead under agent instructions that when you get asked about this, use the internal data, so kind of cleaned it up that way instead.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as the agent instructions inside of Data Agent. It's the same thing. So in Data Agents, we had that conversation. We said, you tell it which data sources to use when asked about certain things. And so for you, you've went and created these knowledge bases to make those answers more intelligent, but it wasn't choosing the right one. And so now we can go in there and say, hey, you're making it smarter. You're giving it instructions. You're telling it to do this.
And the smarter you make it, the dumber you become. Because it is so frustrating. Things that will work today may not work in 2 weeks.
Right.
So you have to really tweak it and monitor it. One last thing is in my instructions here, you'll notice that you can say, use this / and you can see things like topics here. You can also see tools underneath it. So if I go, you can see the different tools that are available to me, different agents that are available to me, just not the knowledge sources. So if I were to hit a / here, it does give me a list of certain resources. Let me zoom in a little closer there. Certain resources. The only thing you don't have access to is knowledge, at least as of right now. But you do get things like power effects and all those kind of things inside there. So this will help you kind of really force it to do certain things also. Well, Mitch, what kind of questions do we have now?
We don't have a lot more. There was one from earlier here that I'm not sure if we grabbed it or not. The question was, can an agent be built off of a Fabric data warehouse? Can it handle calculations? So in other words, if we already have a couple of calculations that are, this is on top of the Fabric data warehouse. I was thinking semantic model. So yes, it can definitely do % of total calculations. I actually think we might have done, we never did this one. So I've done a lot with Fabric data agents and a lot of different questions. And the other day I did something very similar to this where I asked it what days are actually the best for trips, whether it's cold or hot, and then it said cold was, but I was like, well, wait a minute, there's more cold days than there are hot days. So give it to me based on the percentage. And it went into the data warehouse, Justin, and it wrote multiple different queries, and then it got a percentage of how many days were cold and how many were hot, and then compared that to the total number of trips, and it was like 60,000 trips to 40,000 per day, showing that when it's cold in New York City, there's clearly more taxi trips than when it's warm.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is the trial and error parts that you have to do sometimes in this, and this is the frustrating part. It'll make you want to take a tack hammer to your computer sometimes, but it is awesome. So we were going to have a webinar tomorrow also. Unfortunately, we realized as we were doing this that it is more of a series than a webinar.
Oh yeah.
We were looking at Azure ML to go ahead and look how many taxi drivers do I need in 2 weeks based on the current trends. And as we were looking at this, we realized it was more than an hour, much more than an hour. We want to go ahead and build it to its own series by itself. We'll send out notifications about that also. Well, Mitchell, this was awesome. We went through all the steps of building the warehouse, building the Copilot, and now tuning the Copilot. This is something we do in our hackathons, where we build this with you, with your own teams, with your own data. And we also do this for virtual mentoring all the time also, right?
Yep, yeah. So, if this is something that you want, you can definitely reach out to us. It's very easy to get started and get that proof of concept going. But as you saw here, there's a lot of tuning, there's a lot of testing, there's a lot of things that goes along with getting this to be that finished and final product.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this 3-day series here on Fabric Data Warehousing with AI. And Mitchell, thanks for joining me the past few days here also.
I appreciate it.
You guys have a great one. Thank you for being so interactive.
Thank you.